if you come to Florida and you get a PEO, you lease employees, you don't get a blanket coverage, you actually don't have coverage when you use workers that are not who they say they are.
And Lee, that's exactly what happened to one of our clients.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Blue Collar Boardroom. I've got some white collar blue collars in here. What's up, guys? Introduce yourself to these guys.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Rob Foote. I'm one of the principals of Furman Insurance Agency in Pompano Beach, Florida.
Damn,
Thanks
I'm
for having
scared,
us.
dude. I got called the principal office, dude. That wasn't good for me. You look like somebody that got called the principal's office.
Once or twice.
Who are you?
So, I'm Tyler. I'm with Furman Insurance, risk advisor and insurance consultant. So
Now, when I think about insurance, I think boring. But what you're going to hear about in this episode is actually one of the moments in my life that was almost my biggest failure. It was something that literally had me contemplating my end. When I say that, whenever there's pressure of people falling off roofs, people getting injured, not being able to get the right coverages, roofing is the riskiest job. I've been doing this for 15 years. I'll tell you what no one else talks about, man. They don't talk about some of these, tougher subjects that if you've been doing this long enough time, you know somebody that's fell off a roof and died, whether it's in the inspection process or whether it's in the, building process. And, once that happens, you have a responsibility as an owner to do everything you can to protect people. And beyond that, here in Florida and in other states, like where this hurricanes happen, there's required workman's comp insurance. And so I brought some risk advisors on here to help you through this challenging situation, because many of you think workman's comp insurance is too expensive to operate. Now comment below if you think workman's comp is too expensive to operate. I'm telling you, it's not too expensive to operate. We're going to give you real solutions. One of the biggest challenges for roofers is overhead expense. We were talking about it before. And, there is a way that you can reduce risk, get good workers, and scale based on how much you sell. And, for me, I've always been a proponent of finding good subcontractors and then onboarding in my system as employees. And I'll kind of talk to you about how I do that. I got some questions about, is it by the rules or not? Hopefully we're not breaking any rules on camera. But I'm also going to tell you all about how I was busted. And, go ahead and put them bars over my face, because I swear to God, I was concerned about going to jail. And many people don't know this in the state of Florida, that, it's hard to get a blanket workman's comp policy. And I'm going to ask you these questions. You're going to answer me why. But the main thing is I had a policy that didn't cover every single worker unless they were on the roster. And what happens is when you start using roofers from Colombia, from Puerto Rico, or from Panama, or from Ecuador, or from Mexico, they come over, they give you their ID, and you don't know if that's them or not. There's no way you can know. There's so many people out there using fake IDs and fake social security numbers. They pass it by us. We have no way to know. And it's really risky, because I know that I have gotten everybody's driver's license. I know that I make them wear their roster, but whenever the state of Florida cops come up and say, what's your name and who pays you and how do you get paid, somehow I was still liable to be fined hundreds of thousands of dollars by the state of Florida. One time my first fine was $200,000. Man, you ever had a client get a six-figure fine?
Hey, you got to do a lot of roofing jobs to net $250K, don't you, Lee? Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want to do that again. And luckily for me, guys, the end of the story was I ended up getting a blanket policy with a company, Builders Mutual, one of the best insurance companies, from what I understand, for roofers. Yes. But Furman is an insurance agent, and you make sure that your clients get the right coverage. But the reason why you're here is because you work with some of the top roofing companies. I understand that many of the top 100 roofing companies work with you, and you came as a recommendation to one of our top guys on the East Coast, Chris Porosky. And so I wanted to help new people either coming into Louisiana or coming into Florida get legal, and if they can't get a blanket policy, what they need to do to cover their tail, and what they need to do to get a blanket policy, and why they need a risk advisor in their business to save them some of that heartache that I went through.
Sure.
So have you ever had any of those sad stories from roofers before?
Absolutely, Lee. So, it's really difficult to, as you're an emerging roofing contractor, to qualify for workers' compensation coverage. It takes a lot of finesse from an insurance and risk advisor that understands the business. They understand the collection part of it, the finance part of it, the production part of it, the safety part of it, and then be able to take the attributes of that principal of that firm and then go to a workers' compensation provider and lift up the attributes of that organization. What's their new hire orientation program? What's their personal protective equipment program like? How do they handle their lockout tagout programs? Fall protection and what they're using, whether it's conventional or alternative methods, and be able to lift that up. Do they have a return to work light duty program? So bundling these things, communicating the value and the opportunity for that insurance company to make a profit, because let's face it, you cannot engineer out the risk of a severity exposure for a roofing contractor.
No.
It cannot be risked out. So you help mitigate it, right? Through a disciplined approach that comes through permeating a culture of accountability, of safety, and that's through the top-down culture of accountability, right? And that's holding people accountable to put safety.
I made my father-in-law the safety person. When we were going through all this, I'm like, look, this is the most important job in the company. This is what we have to operate, and you're going to make sure that this happens. Yeah. So it's not an easy task, because a lot of times, here's the deal: you tell them to put the harnesses on, you leave, they take the harness off. It takes somebody being protecting your livelihood. To keep the harnesses on these guys. Sure,
and that comes through behavior modification. And I know this isn't the segment to talk about
that. No, but tell us how you've seen roofers successfully. No, this is actually the most important question they need. Straight to the point, guys. Sure. Get your fucking guys to wear their harnesses, okay? Find their asses if they don't. But how have you seen them, and specifically, I've seen the machismo culture from Spanish, and they come into America. They don't really understand necessarily the rules, the laws, and they don't understand it. Yeah. So and it gets in their way, and they don't want to be a little, they don't want to be a BI. I think that's
understood.
So you tell me how you've seen roofers make people wear harnesses.
Very well. Identifying the alpha male in the crew, the leader of that crew, and engaging with that crew leader that has the general business acumen that you teach them, recognizing the impact on the enterprise, and tying their own success to the success of the report card that they receive from an accident and health perspective. And so when we can tie their success or lack thereof to their own individual performance and then grade them against their other crews, no one wants to be on the bottom of the dog pile, right?
Let me put that in roofer language. You need a checklist and you need an inspector. A checklist and an inspector will get her done.
But that's the thing, and especially with the Latino culture, is it engaging them as a family.
It is.
And making them feel comfortable that they're safe in the organization, that you care more about them than profit. So trying to put safety and a culture of safety and accountability and profit and business development on an equal ground is really important. So many roofing professionals look at production here and then safety and risk here, and there's an imbalance. When we find roofing contractors that really dial in, that have experience modifications of 0.50 or 60, which means their insurance burdens are 40 or 50% less than their peer group. So when you can take the third largest expense item, Lee, and you can give a competitive advantage that's earned by that roofing contractor on their third line item on their P&L, they're going to generate margin. Right. That's going to fuel backlog. That's going to allow them to sit up and not just take a low bid fire station just to pay an overhead job. Right. It's going to give them an opportunity to outperform their peer group. So when we see that, it's an opportunity to unleash the margin. So roofing contractors that look at their work comp, general liability, their insurance program is transactional and commodity, they're missing it. And there's roofing professionals, and we handle many of the top 100. We handle 148 roofing contractors, residential new construction, residential re-roofing, commercial service maintenance repair, a wide range of roofing contractors all throughout the country. The roofing contractors that generate the most margin have been able to convert their insurance programs into a profit center.
Yeah.
And we can help them through your platform.
Well, let me
as we move
explain to you
forward.
how I've done that. So you know, because I got a lot of guys that come from Texas, and in Texas it's really hard for us to compete because it's an unregulated market, and in Texas particularly, the prices are low.
It's a Wild West, right?
It's a Wild West. They don't require workman's comp by the state,
That's right.
and what we do at that point is, you know, because there's so little requirements, we get licensed subcontractors, and we try to get those here too, but the ones that are licensed here just charge us a lot more than the ones there.
Sure.
So that being said, or not licensed, I mean insured, their own insurance.
Understood.
Okay, my bad. But the point is that what we build in is with each job, you just take the extra amount that you're going to pay for workman's comp, and if you charge it to the job, then essentially the salesman pays for half of it, you know, and the owner pays for half of it. More importantly, you know, we actually will build in that safety supervisor being on the job site. And this is one of these roofers, like these guys that do storm jobs, subcontract all their work. They don't have a superintendent on all the jobs, and it's because they don't budget for it. Because if all they did was take $250 and give it to someone and train them on how to have a checklist, require that the crew has basically harnesses on and score them the way you require, then you could actually get the kind of referrals that you want, compliance that you want, and you know you can execute the game plan. So, you know, what we did and what got me in trouble, let me explain to y'all was we got a PEO, and it's where we leased employees, and we would have roofing crews come in with IDs, and for all we know, that's them. But then we would get stopped by the Florida Department of Labor, and we'd find out that wasn't really who they were. So to every roofer that's going to work in Louisiana and that's going to work in Florida, why would explain PEO versus blanket coverage and why, you know, go through some of that.
Tyler, please.
So,
Here, pull the microphone up close.
excuse me. So, starting out in Florida, it can be very difficult for a roofing contractor to secure work comp coverage. One of the things they want to see 3 years. They want to see 3 years of loss-free history. So starting out, unless you go to the JUA, a lot of roofing contractors, professionals have to go with a PEO or employee leasing arrangement. In the PEO, it's only going to cover those employees who are on the roster. So the second that one person who provided, whether it be a false ID and papers, or it be somebody who just, or they're just simply left off the roster, whether it be
Let me
a new
explain
hire.
to you what happened. Okay, this
Yeah.
is just to grab everybody's attention. Okay, because this is really fucking happened.
Yeah.
All right. Good roofing crew, good roofer. Inspector was out there, had the fucking harnesses on, and he had just left, and the dude was like getting off the roof, took the harness off, and on the way down, dude fell down and lacerated his face.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yep.
And when that happens, when what you don't realize is when a bad accident happens on a roof, there's no figuring things out. There's call an ambulance.
Yep.
That's get the man to save his life.
Yep.
And when the ambulance took my roofer to the hospital, he found out that his ID was different than the roster that he had on his name.
Yep.
And it wasn't my fault because he gave me the ID.
Yeah.
No, as an employer, you do your due diligence. You collect the information, and it's up to when you submit that information to the employee leasing company, you would expect that they would let you know.
Correct.
So a lot of employers go through the same exact thing. And outside of that, so a standalone policy and standalone coverage, which is what the goal is. And typically, again, they like to see 3 years of loss history. So for an emerging roofing contractor or a storm chaser coming into Florida,
There's no history.
There's no history.
You can't
So
get
how do
you can't get a good coverage policy, because after I started getting prosecuted by the government, by the state of Florida, receiving these fines, I'm like, I'll do anything to get the workman's comp policy. And you know, we had to get our safety procedures in place. We had to get our act in order. We had to be courted through this process where we were denied because we didn't have some of these things in place. And you know, it was good for us because in the end, we were a safer company now. My father-in-law's in charge of the safety of our company, and we train, you know, through online our workers and our safety superintendents through our online training platform. But, you know, one of the most important things that I think about this is that if you come to Florida and you get a PEO, you lease employees, you don't get a blanket coverage, you actually don't have coverage when you use workers that are not who they say they are.
And Lee, that's exactly what happened to one of our clients. So they were, so a work comp policy that's what we call a standalone or a blanket, as Lee's mentioning, it doesn't matter how long that employee's been with you. If you hire him today, Home Depot, I'm not suggesting that, but if you do, you pick up, you need a hot mop crew, tear off crew. Whoever works for you or on your behalf is covered. So one of the things about having workers' compensation, you have a common law defense between you and that employee. Mm-hmm. So by procuring your own standalone blanket workers' compensation, it prohibits that employee coming back to you personally seeking remedy against you as a business owner.
Well, I didn't mean to look at the camera, but I was just excited to tell everybody what actually happened after the guy got to the hospital. Let me explain to y'all what happened. And legally, I may or may not supposed to say this. I have no clue, okay? But I'm going to say it, all right? Very well. We went there because we were still not covered under a blanket policy, and we'd already had strikes by the labor board. And most of the time, if someone falls from a roof, that they're going to show up at the hospital. Luckily, they didn't. But we gave the guy cash because we wanted to pay for his bill. But what it did was it created a person that knew he could exploit us from that point, and that we were vulnerable, which led to a settlement later on, which cost me money, which I could have just had insurance and not had to deal with that, and the stress of dealing with not only the government but paying the guy to have him turn on you. I mean, it's too much to deal with. Yeah, and once you get bigger, you want peace of mind for your whole company over anything else. And I didn't realize that as I was growing, going from a $8 million to $13 million a year company, up and down for about 4 or 5 years, immediately to $30 million. And then, even up more than that in a short amount of time. It was immediately I realized there was a new kind of target on my back.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and Lee, sometimes the prime contractor that has a contract with the owner or the business owner, they don't realize that those employees, if they're not appropriately covered on the PEO, they become their employees. Mm-hmm. They become their employees. And we had this happen, actually, to one of our clients. They had a tear-off crew doing some work on a single-family home. And that person, in the last hour of the day, they were cleaning up. He walked back, fell off the edge of the roof, and landed on an air conditioning unit and severed his spine. Mm. He was a quad. They had to build him a home in Honduras. Mm. The young man, he was 26 years old. They had to pay for all of the expenses for him for the rest of the life, and as they should. But that went upstream, you see. It wasn't for the labor contractor that was doing that tear-off. It didn't rest there. Mm-hmm. It went to that prime roofing contractor's insurance company because that person was not listed. So we know it's very difficult. It's daunting, especially in states like Texas and California and New York and Florida, to make sure that everyone is insured on that job site. But in this situation, that prime contractor had to live with that loss for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it removed all the dividends. It elevated his mod by 40 points. And that elevated his future cost by 40 points, set aside the tragedy of the guy that's now, displaced and never going to walk again. Mm-hmm. But that also impacted the brand of that prime because they sued the homeowner. Oh, wow. They sued the homeowner. So that brand was impacted and very negatively. Sometimes we don't think about that.
No, you don't think about it. I didn't think about it. I'm 34. That's what you call a dumbass a lot of times in business because you haven't experienced everything. But I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this since I was 18.
Of course.
Made a lot of mistakes. And, most people haven't been in the business, 14, 15 years anyways. But I still have a lot of, so it seems to be the only way I learn. But if I could save you heartache, it comes down to this, get with risk advisors that will tell you the truth about workman's comp and that will give you a fair price. And these guys are going to be working with me, so I highly recommend you work with them. Do you cover the whole United States? Do you have areas? Can you cover the whole United States?
We do. We're licensed in all 50. Yep.
Okay, so you have clients everywhere.
Correct.
And, the market in Texas might be a little bit more competitive than Florida. I mean, how does that work?
From an insurance perspective? Yeah, I would say that each region has its own issues. Right. Each venue has its own laws and statutes. But, that's why important, if you hire a CPA, a tax advisor, financial consultant, attorney, lawyer, because they understand your business and they're going to be proactively guiding you. No different than us, Lee. And that's exactly what we can do for roofing contractors.
Okay,
throughout the
so where
country.
can they find y'all at? Like, if they want to look you up, where can they find your insurance company?
Sure, Tyler.
So located in Pompano Beach. We're available on the website. It's www.furmaninsurance.com or call. My cell phone number is 954-994-9292.
We have a website called Roofing Risk Advisors as well, www.roofingriskadvisors.com. And that also would be a little feature on our firm and talks about our roofing expertise.
Let's see what we got here. All right. So, one thing that I want to add to this is we're going to be doing some training, because if we can save just one life, if we can help one roofer not go through what I went through because I didn't understand that I didn't really have coverage with PEO insurance. And if you're a roofer who's got too much overhead, that can't find good crews, look, it's all about the network, and we collaborate to dominate. So what we do is we try to mold and get our subcontractors to get their own insurance. And when you can provide volumes of work, you can actually get good subcontractors that have their own insurance, and you can avoid the liability by requiring that the subs come to you. And you can do it all through one insurance agent. And what's really beautiful about this is that these guys have helped a lot of people in the network already. For me, it's about, now that I have a existing relationship with Builders Mutual, and I'm going for renewal here in September. The biggest thing is, how is there any way that when banks compete, you win? So is there any way that when insurance agents compete, you win? I mean, does that
The
work?
short answer is no. Just like a CPA or an attorney, you want to select an advisor. Trent Cotney is one of the leading roofing industry construction firms in the entire country, and he's delivered a really competitive advantage to roofing professionals because his intellect, his knowledge, his deep expertise of roofing systems, decking systems, lightweight insulating concrete systems. He knows the difference between a built-up roofing system and a single-ply roofing system and a mod bit, on and on. And so when he's communicating with a roofing contractor and they have an issue, they have a collapse, they have a major claim, and they're identifying and trying to source the root cause of it, because, hey, the roofing contractors always get blamed for everything, right,
Yeah.
Lee? You're always getting dinged for things.
It's the only thing I haven't on my record, to be honest with you, is the biggest ding on my liability record is a roof I did after Hurricane Matthew. And, just to put all my stuff out on the air.
Why not?
Why not, dude? Who cares? That's why you enjoy watching this. Like and subscribe, come back for more, and comment that you like this episode. But basically, the roof was a TPO roof. We tore off a lightweight concrete. It was really kind of a complicated flat roof. And when we put a fully adhered TPO system down, next year we had Hurricane Irma, and there was tornadoes that came in. It was like record number of tornadoes on Ormond Beach. Remember? And it was.
Yes, I do.
And so what happens is basically these downbursts, they're not like normal hurricane force winds. It ripped that roof like this, and it wasn't just my roof. There was 3 or 4 other roofs right around it that got ripped off.
Sure.
Well, I went back there to the customer right after it happened, because I felt responsible. And I told him, I will make this roof stop leaking, and I will do this. I'll make sure that your property is okay. I'm responsible. I'm not responsible for the damage, but I'm responsible to make sure that your property's protected, Well, they wanted to make as much money on the claim as possible, and they let it flood.
I see.
And they just didn't let me do the repairs and didn't repair it. And they turned it into the fattest insurance claim that they missed out on the year before. And, dude, it was.
Now, Lee, did you have a mold exclusion within your contract that said that your firm is not liable for mold?
Yeah, see, probably not, exactly. Although Trent Cotney made my contract, I was just probably not smart enough to make them sign the one Trent wrote for me.
I see.
Because, you're getting busy, you're signing
Sure.
this, you're doing that, you don't get, whatever, dude, whatever.
Right.
I screwed
Right.
up.
We
all right?
don't think about what's going to happen
It was
after,
my
right?
first roof in Daytona, okay, as far as commercial big roofs go. And in the end, There was one thing that saved me. It was that I registered the warranty with the manufacturer, and that the warranty was backed by the manufacturer, and that the county had inspected it and signed off. So yes, their insurance company's coming at me for subrogation, you know, and my insurance company has put aside a reserve. So basically no judgment has been made, but there's a $250,000 reserve there. And really it was a tornado that ripped the roof off, and I could have solved it, and it didn't have to turn into that. But you just, like I said, you never know.
Sure. And so we're seeing a number of exclusions on the general liability for roofing contractors in the marketplace today. And Tyler, can you speak about some of the exclusions that you're
So having workman's comp on top of that would cover that? I don't understand.
So relative to workers' comp, I'm sorry.
Not relative. You're right.
First party injury would be the work comp, but on the general liability side of things, I mean, I'm amazed at some of the exclusions I see in some policies from when meeting with somebody for the first time. First thing we do is ask to review their general liability policy. And we don't want to see a certificate that shows $1 million limits and shows their effective date, because that doesn't do much for us. It's the actual policies, list of forms, and endorsements. I've seen open roof exclusions. We see prior work exclusions that are going to negate completed operations coverage from prior work. And one of the biggest things, it's a common misconception. So your work on any general liability policy is not covered. General liability would be, bodily injury or property damage as a result of your work product. So whenever you lay down a roofing system, say it's $1 million job and material costs on that's $300,000. Well, your work that you've done, if there's alleged faulty workmanship at the end of the job and you have to tear it, fails inspection, and you have to tear that system off, it's not covered. If there was resulting damage and water damage that came in as a result of your work, then certainly the resulting damage would be covered. But your work itself is excluded on any general liability policy. And there's contractors, errors, and omissions for that, along with a lot of pollution exclusions that are common. But I've seen open roofs. I've seen classification limitations that are going to deny any claim as a result of work that was outside whatever classifications you have. Seen some policies that had the classification limitation and nothing in there related to roofers. It's all contractors, executive supervisors.
Bottom line is these are the toughest negotiators in the world. Their contracts have a lot of tricky shit. These guys look at roofing contractor policies nonstop for years. They don't let them pull any tricky shit on you. If you go to firmaninsurance.com, you'll get the best rate for workman's comp or for liability. And I'm going to be moving in that direction. You should too. And if you are a client of Firman, a roofing company, and you want to kind of learn the secret of my success, I'm a little crazy. I'm a little bit of a renegade, but I'm 34 and my business does run with a leadership team. We generate hundreds of leads every month through Facebook. And I don't just say that to brag. I say that because I have a relevant system. I'm not one of these coaches that's an empty suit. But if you go to skydiamondsroadmap.com, you can get my complete scaling roadmap. It's a 11-phase process of a combination of direct mail, digital marketing, and door-to-door. It'll help you build a team that allows your company to kind of give you time to spend, maybe doing podcasts or going fishing or doing whatever you want to do. I see that contractors have a problem evolving, and they celebrate their wins too much. They put the money into boats, into properties, but not into growth and not into marketing systems and not into sales teams. And that ends up killing them, because a roofing company that can only make transactions is not a real business. If you can't generate your own customers, then to me, you don't really have a business.
Lee, you know what? The clients that are really old and very, very clumsy in client acquisition, the cost of them acquiring that client is so much higher than the platform that you have. And we're learning more about it, and some of our clients are participating in that. But your client's acquisition, the efficiency of that is what I see as a major differentiator from your product and your program.
And I think even the simplest form of acquisition fee for a deal for me, I mean, I can get deals off of Facebook for $400 a deal, generate leads off direct mail for $700 a deal. I could get Google for, I don't know, it's $800 or $900 a deal for Google. But Taylor, the guy who went and door knocked and sold 105 deals for, now I'm paying him a commission, but I pay him an advance kind of for the lead and the deal and the beginning. That was $200 a deal. So cheapest acquisition fee is still good old fashioned bloody knuckles.
Sure.
So, you know, guys, if you're watching this and you want to build a championship door-to-door sales team, my top guy, you know, he had 100 deals in 10 days. Go to skydiamondsroadmap.com and you can get a copy of this scaling roadmap. It's like roofing growth for dummies. There's not a whole lot of words, a lot of pictures. But this is like my new Mona Lisa, and it really, really summarizes everything in that book, Contracting Growth Secrets, specific for roofers. And if you're another contractor, like you are a remodeler, a home builder, you are in the swimming pool business, a landscaper, and you don't have a copy of my book, I wrote this for all blue-collar entrepreneurs, and this is called Contracting Growth Secrets. And if you go to contractinggrowthsecrets.com, you can pick up your copy, and there's a cool gift that comes with it. We'll send it in the mail. All you have to do is cover the price of shipping. I want to tell you, hey, man, thanks for coming here on the podcast. This was great, man.
It's our pleasure, Lee.
And I look forward to doing business with you, and we really added some good content. You may think this insurance talk, if you're watching this, is not important until you experience what I've experienced. Mm-hmm. And then you realize you were an arrogant asshole who should have been protecting his family a little bit better. And when that happens to you, you feel bad. I feel bad. You know what I mean?
And Lee, we know that timing is everything with insurance, risk, business, roofing, and that we would provide your clients or future clients guidance and counsel on their workers' compensation or any aspect of the risk and insurance program. We know that some of them have very strong ties with a local hometown agent. We're comfortable with that. But long-term, since we're advisors to the roofing industry, we're long-term NRCA members. We're on the board of directors of the FRSA here in Florida. And our family, just like yours, is dependent on the health of professional roofing contractors in the roofing industry. Thank you.
All right, guys, firmaninsurance.com. These guys are going to be shooting some risk advisor training for roofers inside of Sky Diamonds University. Some good new free content coming soon. Hey, thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thank you, Lee.